My name is Whitney Decker. I never thought I'd have to tell this story, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything that happened. I guess it makes sense to start at the beginning, before the worry, before the heartbreak, back when life was simpler and I still believed in happy endings. I met Thomas Decker when I was 23. I was working at a small diner in Wenatchee, and he'd just come back from his second deployment overseas. He was older than me, but he had that spark, the kind of confidence that made him easy to like. He'd come in late at night, always polite, always with a smile that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't before. We fell into something fast. It was easy to believe in those early days that love could fix anything. He was charming, funny, always quick with a story that made me laugh. I didn't think too hard about the scars he carried, the way he'd stare out the window like he was somewhere else, or the times he'd go quiet for no reason at all. We got married a year later. Felt right back then. Like we were building something that could last, even if neither of us really knew how to do that. When Payton was born, it felt like our little family was finally complete. Then came Evelyn, and a few years later Olivia. 3 beautiful girls, each with their father's dark eyes and my stubborn smile. I won't lie and say it was all perfect. Thomas had trouble adjusting to life outside the military. He carried the weight of things he wouldn't talk about, and there were days when that weight pulled him under. He could be distant, short-tempered. Sometimes he'd leave for hours, driving the back roads without saying where he was going. But he loved those girls. That much I never doubted. As the years went on, the cracks between us got wider. The fights grew longer, the silences deeper. I think we both knew it was only a matter of time before it all came apart. When we finally split, it wasn't some big dramatic thing. Just 2 people who'd run out of ways to make it work. He moved into that old camper, said he needed space to figure things out. I stayed in the house with the girls. We worked out an arrangement. He'd see them every other weekend, take them for drives in the hills or let them stay the night if they wanted. I thought it was important for them to have their father in their lives. No matter how I felt about him, I knew he loved them in his own way. I'd watch them pack up their little overnight bags, so excited to see him. Payton always the first to hug him tight. Evelyn holding her teddy bear close. Olivia chattering away like she didn't have a care in the world. Those weekends were important to them. A piece of their childhood I didn't want to take away. Looking back, I wonder if I should have asked more questions. If I should have paid more attention to the way his voice sounded on the phone, or the way he looked at the girls when he thought no one else was watching. But at the time it felt like the right thing to do. I wanted them to know their father. I wanted them to feel like they had a family, even if it didn't look the way I once imagined. I didn't know then what was waiting for us at the end of that road. None of us did. I remember that Saturday morning so clearly. May 31st. The girls woke up before the sun, buzzing with excitement. It had been a couple of weeks since they'd seen Thomas, and they missed him. Payton was especially eager, already wearing the little pink backpack she'd packed the night before. Thomas pulled up just after 10. The camper looked the same as always, a little beat up, a little tired. He stepped out and gave them each a quick hug. He didn't say much to me, just nodded and asked if they were ready. I thought maybe he was in one of his moods, those days when talking seemed too hard. I didn't press. Before they left, I knelt down and kissed each of the girls on the forehead. "Be good for Daddy," I said, like I always did. Payton smiled. Evelyn held my hand for a moment longer than usual, and Olivia was already tugging at Thomas's arm, ready to go. I watched them climb into that camper, the door closing behind them with a soft thud. I remember thinking how small it looked, the 4 of them inside. But I told myself it was only for a couple of days. They'd be back Sunday night, full of stories about whatever adventure they'd gone on. When Thomas didn't call that evening, I tried not to worry. He'd forget sometimes, get caught up in the girls' chatter or wander too far out where the reception was bad. But by Sunday morning, the worry had started to creep in. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I told myself he'd call back soon, that he'd just let the battery die like he always did. By late afternoon, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I called again. And again. Each time the same hollow voicemail greeting. I left messages, my voice growing sharper each time. "Thomas, where are you? The girls need to be home by dinner." No answer. I tried to think of what to do next. Part of me wanted to believe there was a simple explanation. Maybe he'd taken them camping and lost track of time. But another part of me, the part one didn't want to listen to, kept whispering that it wasn't like him to be this silent. I drove by some of the places he liked to take them, the little park by the river, the old orchard out past town. Nothing. No sign of them. When the sun started to set, I called the police. I told them I didn't know if it was an emergency, but my daughters hadn't come home and I couldn't reach their father. They took down the information, said they'd put out a notice, but there was nothing else they could do yet. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window staring out into the dark, willing the headlights of that camper to appear in the driveway. But they didn't. The next morning, I called the police again. This time, my voice was shaking. I told them everything about the visits, about the agreement Thomas and I had. About how he promised he was doing better, that he was seeing someone for his anger, for the darkness I knew he carried. I told them I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. They said they'd start a search. That they'd let me know as soon as they heard anything. I tried to hold on to that, to believe that someone would find them and bring them home safe. I didn't know then that the worst had already happened. Those first days were the longest of my life. I remember every hour like it was carved into me. The phone calls, the waiting, the way the house felt too quiet without the girls' voices filling it. The police were kind. They asked for photos of the girls, what they'd been wearing when they left. Payton's favorite striped sweater. Evelyn's little green shoes. Olivia's hair in pigtails. I tried to hold on to those small details like they were a lifeline. Like if I remembered them hard enough it would keep the girls close to me. Neighbors stopped by to offer help. Some brought food I couldn't eat. Others just sat with me, trying to fill the silence with small talk. But nothing they said could touch the hollow space in my chest. All I could think about was where my girls were. Whether they were warm enough, whether they were scared. I talked to the police every day. They told me they were searching the woods, checking every gas station and rest stop. That they put out alerts to every officer in the area. I wanted to believe it was enough. But every time the phone rang, my heart stopped, and every time it wasn't news, it was like dying all over again. I remember the second night. I was sitting on the couch, the TV on low, but I wasn't really watching. I saw Thomas's face in every shadow. The way he'd looked that morning, so quiet, so distant. I kept thinking back to the way he'd kissed the girls on the head, how he hadn't really looked at me. I wondered what he was thinking. Whether he was scared too, or if he'd finally given in to the darkness he'd carried all those years. The police started asking harder questions then. About Thomas, about what he was like when the girls were with him. I told them everything I could. That he loved them, but he wasn't always steady. That there were days when he'd shut down, his face like a wall I couldn't climb. I told them about the therapy, how he promised he was getting help. But I didn't know if it was true. I wanted to believe it was. By the third day, there were volunteers out searching too. People from town, strangers who'd heard what happened. They walked the trails, combed the woods near the river. Some came by the house, gave me updates I could barely hear. It felt like everyone was trying to find the girls, but the world was just too big and too empty. I kept thinking about their last morning here. The way Payton had grabbed her backpack, how Olivia had kissed me on the cheek so quickly before running off to the camper. How Evelyn had looked back at me, just for a second, her eyes wide and solemn in a way I didn't understand then. I held on to that look. Like she'd known something I didn't. Like she'd wanted me to see her one last time, just in case. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if any of it does. All I know is that in those days of waiting, hope and dread lived side by side in me, and every minute felt like it was never going to end. It was Monday morning when the police finally knocked on my door. I could see it in their faces before they even said the words, that something was terribly wrong. My heart was pounding in my chest as they asked to come in. I sat down on the couch, hands shaking in my lap, and listened as they told me what they'd found. Thomas's camper had been discovered in the woods, not far from Seattle. Inside, they found bloody handprints on the walls, smeared across the seats. And outside, not far from the camper, they found my girls. They said the girls had been suffocated. All three of them. Payton, Evelyn, Olivia, gone. Killed by the man who was supposed to protect them. I remember the way the words fell from the officer's mouth, so calm, so measured. But each one hit me like a hammer. Suffocated. Dead. My babies. My girls. I don't remember what I said. Maybe I didn't say anything at all. My mind was screaming, but my mouth wouldn't move. I just sat there staring at the wall behind the officer's shoulder, trying to find something to focus on that wasn't the horror of what he was telling me. He kept talking, explaining how they found them lying together in a small clearing, as if they'd just fallen asleep. He said it looked like they hadn't suffered for long. I don't know if that was meant to comfort me, but it didn't. Nothing could. I wanted to ask why. Why Thomas would do something like this. But the words wouldn't come. And even if they had, I don't think there would have been an answer that made sense. After the officers left, I sat in the living room in the silence that seemed to swallow everything. My mind kept replaying the last time I saw the girls, their little backpacks slung over their shoulders, Payton's shy smile, Evelyn's solemn eyes, Olivia's endless chatter. How could I have known that would be the last time? People started coming by with flowers and candles, but I couldn't bring myself to go out and see them. It felt like if I stepped outside, I'd be admitting it was real. And I wasn't ready for that. I don't think I'll ever really be ready. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and thought about the way Thomas used to hold the girls when they were small. The way he'd tuck them in at night, read them stories. I thought about how that same man could take their lives so easily, and it felt like my heart would break in two. There's no comfort in knowing how they died. There's no comfort in anything, really. Just the empty spaces where their laughter used to be, and the echo of the questions that will never have answers. The funeral was held the following Saturday. I don't remember much of it, just a blur of faces, of hands squeezing mine, of voices whispering that they were sorry. Sorry. It was a word I heard 1,000 times that day, but it felt hollow in my ears. What comfort could there be in a word like that? We laid them to rest in a quiet cemetery on the edge of town. 3 small caskets, lined up in a row, each one no bigger than the girls they held. I remembered the way the white flowers looked against the dark wood, how the wind seemed to hold its breath as the minister spoke. People from all over came. Neighbors, friends, people I hadn't seen in years. Some I barely knew, but they still came, standing in that cold morning air to say goodbye. I wanted to thank them, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was stand there and hold on to the memory of my girls' laughter, their bright eyes, their soft hands in mine. Thomas wasn't there, of course. He was already behind bars, waiting for the trial that would decide what to do with the man who'd stolen everything from me. Part of me wanted to go see him, to look him in the eye and ask him why. But another part of me knew there'd never be an answer that could make sense of it all. After the service, people gathered at my house. They brought casseroles and pies, like food could fill the hole that had been carved out of me. I tried to be polite, to nod and smile and accept their condolences. But inside, I felt like I was floating above it all, watching a life I didn't recognize anymore. The girls' room is still the way they left it. Payton's books lined up on the shelf, Evelyn's little drawings taped to the wall, Olivia's stuffed animals piled on her bed. I can't bring myself to change it, not yet. Sometimes I sit in there with the door half closed just to feel close to them. It's quiet in there, but not in the same way as the rest of the house. In that room, it's like they're still here somehow, their laughter echoing off the walls. People tell me I'm strong, that they don't know how I'm still standing. But the truth is, I don't feel strong. I feel empty. Like everything that mattered was stripped away in a single, unthinkable act. Some days I don't know how to keep going. Other days I tell myself I have to because they would have wanted me to. The police and the prosecutors keep in touch. They tell me about the charges, about the trial dates and the evidence. They talk about justice, about making sure Thomas pays for what he did. I nod, I sign the papers they need me to sign, but none of it feels real. Justice? There's no justice that can bring back what I lost. At night, I lie in bed and close my eyes and try to remember the way the girls looked when they were sleeping. The soft rise and fall of their chests, the way they'd curl up close to each other like they were safest together. I hold on to those memories like they're the only things left of them. Some days, that's enough to keep me going. Some days it isn't. Time doesn't heal everything. That's something I've learned in the months since I lost my girls. People mean well when they say it does, that in time, the pain will soften, that I'll find a way to move on. But there are some wounds that never close. Some losses that become part of you. I still live in the same house. The same quiet street, the same neighbors who wave when they see me out front. To them, life keeps moving. There are new families, new stories being written all around me. But for me, everything stopped the day my daughters left and never came home. Some mornings I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that goes cold in my hands. I watch the sun rise and tell myself it's another chance to keep going. I tell myself that if I can get through this day, maybe tomorrow will feel a little easier. But the truth is it doesn't. The weight never changes. I just learned how to carry it. I've thought a lot about Thomas. About the man he was when we met, the man who made me laugh, who held our daughters like they were the most precious things in the world. And I've thought about the man he became. The darkness he let in, the violence he chose. It's hard to hold those two pictures in my head, but I try. Because I need to remember that there was love once, even if it ended in something I can't forgive. People tell me I'm strong. that they don't know how I keep going. But I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm just trying to find my way in a world that doesn't make sense anymore. Some days, that means getting out of bed and making breakfast, even if there's no one here to eat it. Other days, it means sitting in the girls' room, letting the memories wash over me until I can't breathe. I know I'll never stop missing them. Payton with her quiet wisdom, Evelyn with her fierce little heart, Olivia with her endless curiosity. They were my world. And now they're gone. But I also know that love doesn't die just because they're gone. It's still here in the way I remember them. In the way I speak their names out loud so the world doesn't forget. In the way I try every day to honor the lives they had, even if they were far too short. I don't have any answers for why Thomas did what he did. I don't think I ever will. All I have are the pieces he left behind, the memories, the heartbreak, the quiet moments when I feel them close and know they're watching over me. This is what remains. The love I still have for them, the memories I carry, and the promise I made to myself that I'll keep going. For them. For me. Because in the end, that's all I can do.